All right, I think we're rolling. Let's let some people get in here. Got I think we're rolling. Let some people get in here. All right, looks like we've got a few people joining. Yeah, just want to do another live stream. Last week's was super fun. Put out my 35 Noctilux first look video yesterday. It's doing pretty well. Seems like you guys enjoyed that. So I wanted to follow up on the 35 Noctilux, but kind of just do a general Q&A. So yeah, I'm going to let a few more people join here. And yeah, just want to answer any Leica related, vintage stuff, modern, any, like I said, Q&A, any questions you guys have. So yeah, as people join here, just feel free to throw some questions in here, and I'll answer them the best I can, throw them up on screen. And yeah, it was actually cool because last week, it seems like a lot of people actually viewed the live stream after it was over. So if I can answer questions, and maybe if you guys have any other questions or things I didn't answer in that first look with the Noctilux video, I'm going to be shooting some fashion and portraiture tomorrow with it. So if you guys have any questions, you know, things that you might want to know about the 35 Noctilux, let me know. And like I said, start the questions, let them start rolling. Let's see here. Just got 5 people. Let a few more people join here. But yeah, if you guys got any questions, general Q&A, Leica stuff, please let me know. Grabbed a few fun pieces here. Tried to cover a little bit of a range, some vintage stuff, some neo-vintage, I guess you could say, some more, I guess I don't really have too much modern stuff here, but the new Noctilux reissue in black paint. Love this lens, so cool. Need to shoot that more. I think tomorrow I'm going to take that thing out for the first real time with it. Got my beloved M3 black paint here, which I absolutely love. Let's see. Got the Hammertone MP. I guess I grabbed quite a few film cameras here. Hammertone thing's so beautiful. Got a few lenses here. Got the double spherical. Got the Noctilux 35. This is a really special one. This is the steel rim reissue in black chrome. They only made 200 of these, so it's a pretty rare, pretty special, cool lens. One of my personal favorites here. Got the M9 Hermes edition. This is one of the most revamped kind of digital M's that Leica ever did. Really cool. The lens matches the whole kit. Just pretty fun. And of course, my trusty other M9 here, which I purchased like this. It's very worn. I think it has over 200,000 shots. I don't know. I think someone probably manually patinaed this a little bit, but it does have a ton of shots on it, so it's really cool. I got some custom brass pieces fitted on here, but yeah. Let's see. And oh yeah, the Noctilux here is on my favorite modern film camera of all time. It's called the MP3. A lot of you guys probably never even heard of it, but it's a camera that was made by the Leica Historical Society of America back in the day. I think 2005 this camera came out, and yeah, it's all black paint, just insane. It's the coolest modern M, I think, or in the top 3 that they ever made. It's a throwback to the original MP, which is really cool. And yeah, we got my other holy grail, the Noctilux Titan here, which I think I had this in the last live stream as well, but just in case we want to do compare the titanium Noctilux, or the size of the 50.95 to the 35 again, we can do that. And yeah, just wanted to jump on here for a general Q&A, see if I can answer any Leica questions for people, because I know a lot of people out there have them. And yeah, any knowledge I can provide for you guys, definitely love to give that for you guys. Cool, got our first question here. All right, Happy New Year to you as well. Okay, you ask, is there any black and white, or any presets for the black and white rendition of the M10-P? Are you just talking about like doing a black and white conversion? If you maybe expand on that a little bit, help me. But I have a few presets that I use for my monochrome cameras as well as my color cameras when I'm converting. I have some specifically for the M9, some for the M10 series cameras, and now honestly the M10 and the M11 with a few little tweaks get you pretty close. But I kind of basically have like a lower contrast, kind of flat profile preset that I made, a mid contrast, a really high contrast one that I really love, and then basically a fourth one that just adds grain to that fourth preset. But the way I use presets is I essentially use them just as a starting point to kind of get me 70% of the way there, or even if I'm scrolling through them, maybe if I don't really know the direction I want to take my color or my black and white edit, and kind of give me an idea. And as I scroll through, I might see something and kind of be like, oh yeah, I really like the way that's going, and maybe I'll apply the preset. So yeah, it's just kind of a way for me to start, maybe get 70% of the way there, I would say, and then I do quite a bit of tweaking on top of that to kind of tailor it to that. And then usually what I do is I'll actually, once I kind of get that tweak to that shoot, kind of the look that I like, I'll just copy settings, and then I'm basically just pasting those settings to every image after that that I like, my selects, and then making minor adjustments. So base presets get me 70% of the way there. Then I edit one of the photos down, gets me about 90% of the way there. Then I apply that to all my selects, and then the last 10% are just minor tweaks or retouching and things like that. Let's see here. What do we got? All right, have I had a chance to run the 35 Nox side by side with a double spherical? No, this is as close as they've been side by side, but not shooting, unfortunately. But how would you describe honestly, I don't have enough time to definitively say this about the 35 Noctilux, but it probably will take over 90% of my 35 mil shooting. The double spherical still has a little bit of magic in the way the highlights roll off. It kind of has a slight bloom to it, and it definitely has less vignetting. So maybe on film you'll find it better, but I've actually found that on film the vignetting is not as bad. So it's kind of hard to say. I mean, I don't want to say that that the Noctilux will replace the double spherical, but it's a really impressive lens for sure. But yes, I know I need to put it side by side, and I've had a million people ask me to do that. I've come to realize that I hate side-by-side or doing them side-by-side comparisons, but I understand why people want to see it and why it's important. But yeah, for me, it's more about just getting the lenses out and seeing how they shoot for what, and kind of just learning them. But yeah, it's definitely to have the knowledge of what you want to pick up. It would be good to do a comparison. So eventually, yes, for sure, I will be comparing these two lenses, because the 35 double spherical has absolutely been the number one 35 that I've loved so far. But I've been carrying the Noctilux with me every day for the last, I guess, week now would be. So yeah. James, what's up? Who's first in line to buy the Jim Marshall set of yours? I think it's you, man. I feel like you maybe mentioned it once, twice, maybe 100 times to me that you want that camera. But oh dang, I almost brought it down for the live stream. But next time, I can't get you too excited that I might sell it. That one's a keeper, unfortunately. Oh, this is a great question. What do I think the most undervalued Leica model currently is, even outside the M line? Oh man, let's see. For cameras, I think the M7 is quite underrated. I'll kind of break it down, and we'll do film M's. The M7 is really underrated. M7 and M4. The M5 is actually a phenomenal camera, and I think it actually has the best light meter of any M. The problem is the light meters use a selenium cell and they go bad. There's many people that will tell you, oh, I can put an adjuster in there for batteries, and there's one person that used to do it quite well. I don't know how they do it anymore. The M5 would be incredible if we could get that meter working perfectly, but I just can't recommend it because of that. But the M4, from my repair technician that used to work at Leica in Canada, he says the M4 is the final M film camera, M3, M2, M4 that was really built the best. So you get the rapid loading system. I'm not necessarily a fan of the rewind or the advanced crank, but it is quite nice. People do love that. So the M4 is really undervalued, and I think the M7, it went through a period where no one wanted it, and now it's creeped back up in price. So I guess maybe it's not an undervalued camera, but I think it's an underappreciated camera, because when I go to shoot seriously, especially on like a fashion shoot, it's the M7 every time. You have aperture priority mode. You can shoot in between shutter speeds. So if the camera thinks, and this is only in aperture priority mode, but if the camera thinks that it should select a shutter speed, let's say between like 7/50th or sorry, like between 500 and 1,000th of a second, because typically on your film M's, that's kind of the jump that you make, right? It's a full stop. In aperture priority mode, the camera can actually select an in-between shutter speed. Now, with black and white film or C41, not super critical, but for slide film that you really need to nail the exposure, the M7's metering system in aperture priority is pretty cool. So I would say M7, M4 is really underrated. I'm trying to think outside of that. Honestly, that I would say another, probably the most underrated modern M is the SL3S. That's what I'm recording on right now. I picked up 2 of them this year. The autofocus is really great. And for most people, 95% of people, you do not need more than 24 megapixels. And beyond the resolution, I much prefer the color rendition, the cleanliness of the files with ISO performance over the SL3. So I think the SL3S is a slept-on camera, video performance, photo performance, autofocus. Just, in my opinion, it's the greatest rendering color sensor Leica's ever made for photos as well. So I think SL3S is a super, and even SL2S, if autofocus doesn't matter to you and you're more adapting manual lenses, the SL2S is the absolute best buy in a Leica you can buy for a digital camera. It's insane. Ah, okay, I see what you're saying. If you set the JPEG to monochrome, applying the presets in the edit. So in camera, I typically use the high contrast setting. I do really love the way it looks. And I would say that I kind of based my own presets somewhat around that look. I really like it, but I don't adjust any of the settings in camera, if that's what you're talking about, to basically apply to those JPEGs. The one thing I really wish that Leica would, I don't know if it's Leica or Adobe or who would implement this, but when you shoot a Fujifilm camera, you can apply basically you can shoot RAW plus JPEG. It will show you the film simulation that's applying to the JPEG only. Once you import your RAW file, you can actually apply that film preset to the RAW file, because with the Leica, you only get it to the JPEG, so you're losing a little bit of quality, editing flexibility that you have with the JPEG, of course, right? So I really wish that we could see Leica looks and also just the JPEG presets be able to be applied in Lightroom or Capture One. I would love to see that. All right, what's up, Garrett? He says, thanks for the content. What got you into Leica? What is a modern Leica sleeper camera? Okay, I kind of talked about the second part, but okay, what got me into Leica? Well, fortunately or unfortunately, there was a camera store. It's not there anymore, but it was faster to walk there than it was to drive in a car close to my house. So that was quite dangerous, you know. I guess I'll go back. What kind of got me into photography? Again, I was really into making videos, photography, video stuff, bicycling, skateboarding videos, that type of thing. I stopped for a while. I started a company and I couldn't afford a photographer. And I was like, you know what? I really love photography. And I bought a Sony mirrorless camera, kind of went down that whole road, really got into it. But every time I'd walk into the camera store, the used Leica stuff was first, M3s, things like that, right? And I'd walk past that to the Sony, and I have a history of making things, leatherworking, bicycles, all kinds of different stuff. So I appreciate high quality stuff, and I would always see the Leica just looks so unique, right? So I would always see the M3s in there, and I'm just like, finally asked him, like, what the hell is this Leica thing, right? And you know, he goes, instead of me telling you, let me show you, right? So he pulls the camera out, he hands it to me, and the first time you hold like an older M or, you know, something that's made of solid brass like that, like you just feel the quality immediately, like nothing is loose on it. It's very, you know, the tolerance are tight. It's just, oh man. So from that moment on, I was like, okay, like the Leica is definitely is something that I want to own someday. So that's kind of what got me into it. But funny enough, I actually bought a Summilux spherical lens and adapted it to the Sony before I bought a body, which was an M3. It was my first M that I ever bought. But yeah, I guess I'm trying to think if I can elaborate on the sleeper thing a little bit more, because you're the second person to ask for that. Yeah, I would say, you know, since I already talked about the cameras, let me talk about some lenses. So my kind of sleeper lens, I would say, are 2 of them. If you're into 50 millimeter, it's the rigid Summicron. It's a vintage. It's the first version of technically the second version of the Summicron, and also the first version of the Summicron, which is called a collapsible. You can find great copies of those lenses under $1,000, and they both perform incredibly well on even modern cameras. Like I throw them on my modern M11 monochrome, the M10 monochrome. I shot them on all the time. You do have some 1 meter minimum focus limitations, which is a bit of a bummer. But other than that, like, they're not necessarily sleepers because people know about them, but I guess not everybody knows about them. And the price is just, I mean, what you get for that cost is really good. If you want something more modern in lenses, I think the best value is either a 50 or a 35 Summilux aspherical, the FLEs version 1. If you buy a used one around $2,500, I don't think there's a better lens for the price. Speedman says, have you used the R line much? I know the lenses are common to mod for cine, but don't hear much about the bodies. I have limited experience with the bodies, a lot of experience with the lenses. Exactly what you're talking about. All mine are cine modded, so they have declicked apertures, focus motor rings, and I actually converted them to EF mount, which if you get an R lens and you don't plan on using it on an R, regardless of video or not, I actually really recommend because it makes it more adaptable. But yeah, I've shot the R3, I think it is. I've shot, a few of the Rs. I've shot some of the Leica Flex SLs. I mean, honestly, the R bodies with an R lens is like even like a 50 Summicron or 35 Summicron. Like, man, you can pick those up really inexpensive. And again, in a film camera, whether it's an M or an R, the body itself is just a light, tight box, right? It's more the ergonomics, the build quality, the reliability that matters, but the camera itself is not really affecting the image, right? It's the glass that you put in front of it. So an R system, if it's serviced well, is a really good way to get into the system and get into the beautiful Leica glass. The R lenses are truly some of my favorite. I think they have one of the best balance of character, price, performance. Of course, R systems are a bit massive and huge and heavy compared to the M, so that's a detractor for a lot of people. But some of them are electronic advance, and you can even I've shot what I think it's called the DMR digital back, which is really cool, which have gotten quite expensive now. But that was kind of Leica's first foray into professional digital, if you want to say that. But very low resolution, kind of a cool color sensor, but they're a little bit weird to use. But yeah. The R system is really great. I just don't have, I've shot it a bit, but just don't have as much experience like I do with the M's. Yo, Brandon, what is up? All right. What? Okay, I've never heard of that. Oh, okay. So yeah, for editing, got it. Yeah, I mean, I would just say experiment with things, right? Like, always what I do with a new camera is I push the files right away. I try to find maybe bad lighting situations, or even I try to find a mix of lighting situations, and I push the files till they fall apart, because I want to know before I get to the editing process, like, am I going to be able to recover the highlights? Am I going to more the shadows? Am I going to be able to recover shadows? So something I do is I go out overexpose, underexpose, and I kind of measure, I've gone up or over 1 stop, 2 stop, 3 stop. And I really try to train myself to understand, like, hey, if I go into editing later, will I be able to recover these files? How far can I push them? Not even necessarily does something go to clipping, but just because it doesn't clip doesn't mean that it looks good either, right? So I kind of train myself to understand, like, hey, if I have a certain lighting ratio, this will allow me to bring it back in post-production. So I really try to tell people, think about your photography as a cohesive body. One of my biggest pet peeves, and the thing I hate the most when people say, is that, I don't edit my photos, they're straight out of camera. I try to keep it natural or whatever, like film photography. And the funny thing is that in film photography, editing in a different way was a massive part of the process. Making the photograph, in my opinion, is only the first step, right? So I try to think of it as a cohesive thing. I try to think of my color theory or my black and white edit, kind of what I'm trying to achieve, and then I basically expose in camera for the post-processing. Oh, this is a great question. Thank you, Travis. What is your experience on the rendering of the new Leica Classics, like this lens here, versus the originals? So I think this is kind of transformed a bit. I think the original Classic line, like the Tham bar and what was like the the 1.2 Noctilux, things like that, I think they tried to stay more true to the original. But I think those lenses can be, especially the steel room, can be a bit shocking to people. because they just see, oh, it's a smaller Noctilux, it's going to be great. And it's a small, oh my God, the 35 Summilux, you know, the steel rim, you take the hood off, this thing is miniature, right? Which is so, the size is cool. But what people don't realize is that they don't perform like modern lenses at all. And of course, that's why we love them. But I think it can be a bit shocking. And I think what I saw, especially with the 1.2 Noctilux, that lens came out, you know, everybody, oh, it's so legendary. It's such a great lens. It's so compact and small. So I think a bunch of people went out and bought it. They took some photos with it and they're like, oh my God, I hate this thing. What is this? So I definitely recommend, kind of getting off topic, but I definitely recommend that people try the classic line before they just commit to buying it, because the looks are very unique. But as far as comparing them to the original, you know, I would say they're 85% of the way there. The steel rim, for example, I've done quite a few comparison tests with an original that I have. And I would say the biggest difference is the flaring. The flare is quite a bit more controlled on the new ones. You have slightly more contrast, and I think that's due to the newer coatings. But also the glass techniques that they use to basically create the lenses have been different. So a lot of the modern lenses are formed or pressed, or they're poured glass elements, where back in the day it was much more hand polishing and grinding. So I think what you'll see in the modern lenses is a lot of consistency. So not a lot of what they say, what they call copy variation, which means like an original Summilux can have, you know, one of them, or a Noctilux, you put them side by side and they could render quite differently because everything was done by hand, so there can be a slight variation. The modern lenses are going to be a lot more consistent, but they definitely don't have as much of the crazy character of the originals. Now, something that I've seen a bit of a departure with this lens here, this is the 50 Summilux Classic line. Do a little crop in for you guys here. I don't know if that's in focus. Here we go. The classic line here, the 50, I think they tried to optimize this a little bit more to be for modern cameras, and they took, I think it's more of like they took inspiration instead of like completely recreating the original. And at first I was really against that, but I think for certain lenses it does really make sense. And I'm actually going to shoot this lens quite extensively for the first time tomorrow, but from what I've seen so far, it performs really well on the modern sensors. It just takes an edge off of the sharpness. It has a little bit of character and fall off. I think for the mass majority of people that aren't insane vintage nuts that just want everything exactly like the original, like myself, I think for the majority of people, the classic line of lenses, if they kind of go in that direction of making some slight improvements for modern cameras, I think that's a better way to go. But of course, then you do vary away from the original rendering, right? So it's always kind of a balancing act. But yeah, I would say that's kind of my general thoughts. The older lenses are a little more true to the originals and can have some flaws, and where this lens, I think, is a little bit of a departure from that. So that's a great question. Oh man, Andrew. This is going to be a very, very controversial take. So please don't blow me up for this, people. But in my opinion, just about any Summicron 35 is a good alternative to the King of Bokeh. The lens, you know, the silver version is all brass, and the ones made in Germany have better quality parts inside of them. But overall, I am not a big fan of that lens. It was at a time when, I don't want to say Leica was cutting corners, maybe we'll say cost savings a bit. So the quality of that lens is not the best. You know, I've had people come to me and say, oh, I really want a King of Bokeh. I advise them against it. They buy the lens, and then a few months later they come to me and go, oh man, you were right. That part that you talked about broke inside of it, you know. And you can't get parts for them. So it's kind of turned into a scrap lens at that point. Of course, most people are not going to have that experience with it, but it is a possibility. Rendering wise, I don't think it's anything special. If you look into the reason why it's called the King of Bokeh, it's from some blogger that just decided to call it that. I think that's why Leica themselves even say the steel rim is the real King of Bokeh. But to be honest with you, a good alternative, I would say either go modern, right? So you have a modern lens. If you don't want something modern, you want something more vintage, the 8-element Summicron is insanely good. It is so much better than the King of Bokeh. It's very small, just like it, all metal build construction. The optics are incredible. So it's a 35 version 1. So it's the first Summicron 35. It's called the 8-element. That's kind of the nickname if you want to say kind of like the King of Bokeh. So yeah, vintage, I would definitely recommend 8-element. Much preferred over the King of Bokeh, and honestly, it's not that much. It's maybe, I would say, $500 to $1,000 more expensive for a nice copy, but that's definitely what I would recommend, or otherwise just go for a modern Summicron. But yeah, the 8-element is definitely one of the top 3 must-have lenses that I recommend for people getting into vintage. Yeah, Brandon, I'm stoked as well, man. It's fun. I'm definitely going to do a couple of these a month for sure. This is funny. Thank you for this question. I really appreciate it. It's a question I've been getting asked a lot, actually. Surprisingly, people asking my thoughts on Leica potentially being bought out by the Chinese. I don't really have a strong opinion on it. I haven't heard too much personally, to be honest with you. My biggest thing is that I wouldn't really care about a buyout as long as the ethos of the company and kind of what's made Leica so special stays. But no matter what happens, the cool thing is that all of this glass that has been made up until this point is going to be good now. It's going to be good in 10 years, and it's still going to be great in 100 years. A lot of these lenses and things I still use I was using a lens yesterday that's over 100 years old. So worst case, we still have this amazing glass and, the cameras, of course, but I don't have too much of a strong opinion. I've heard kind of varying things. I want to wait a little bit more till I hear for sure what might be happening, but there are some things that would lead me to believe that it is definitely a possibility, for it to a majority stake to be sold. So yeah, well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, just keep the essence of Leica and what makes it so special and all the great people that work there. All right, here's a good one. Watch your Matthew Baton video. Got myself an M6 after watching one for 20 plus years. Congratulations. M6 is a great place to start. Rangefinder experience is great, but film is killing me. Okay, you got to tell me, why is it killing you? Is it the developing a scanning process? Is it the cost of it? Yeah, you got to let me know. If it's a developing a scanning process, I rarely do this, you guys, but if you are in the Los Angeles area or you want to travel to, my girlfriend and I are doing a Leica Academy workshop coming up here in about a month on March 13th through the 15th. And it's everything film photography, entry level, developing, scanning, shooting, loading. There's going to be Leica on loan there that's really cool. So even if you don't have a Leica, you don't have a Film M, doesn't matter. You have no excuse not to show up. And the coolest thing is at the end of the workshop, you actually get to take the developing box that we're going to be using home with you so you can continue to do the process. But what's cool about it, it's not necessarily if you just want, if you think, oh, I just want to learn how to develop and scan, I'm going to do it all myself. I think that if you're going to shoot film, you're going to be a film photographer, whether you take the class or not. I think you should at least find somewhere where you can develop and scan, scan, even print if you can is even better. I think learning the process, kind of even like what I was going back to talking about the presets and learning and shooting your digital photography for the editing later. I also shoot my film photography, deciding, am I going to scan it? Is it going to become a print later? I really try to think of that whole process. So I don't think that definitely not everybody has to develop and scan their own film, but I think it's good to at least do the process once to understand it and appreciate it. So if you guys do want to learn that process and you're in the LA area, we have an Academy workshop coming up, so we'd love to have you guys there. Okay, this is a great question. Why is the 50.95 your all-time favorite lens? As you've stated in the past, I always seem to leave mine behind when I want such a great position for size. Yeah, I mean, listen, the Summilux, like I said earlier, the 50 millimeter or the 35 is my #1 recommendation, the aspherical, for people that are looking to get into Leica and want the best balance of performance, weight, size, price, all that, right? The Summilux line are incredible. What specifically makes the 0.95 Noctilux my favorite Leica lens and why it's so special is that it creates a look that is so distinguishably Noctilux. It's unlike, all of these lenses create a unique look to a certain degree, right? But no lenses create a look so distinct like this lens. And I have real world proof of that. One time I was managing a shoot, so I own a production company, and we were managing a big commercial shoot. I had 2 great photographers there shooting. I was more producing and looking over it, but I also had my camera with me, and I was shooting some pickup shots. And let me go back to my main scene here. Sorry about that. And yeah, so I was shooting pickup shots, and I'm like, you know what? Since I'm not the one getting the mission critical photography, right? I'm going to shoot my Noctilux for sports and action. I'm going to shoot it wide open, it doesn't matter if I nail any photos, but if I do, it's probably going to look pretty cool, right? And what happened is all our photos went into a big pool, and none of the people producing it knew kind of what was going where or who shot what. And the catalog comes out, and it's every single photo is from the Noctilux. And I'm kind of like, well, it's interesting. And, you know, I asked the creative director that put it together, I said, hey, just out of curiosity, like, why did you choose these photos in the catalog? And they told me, I don't know what it is, but these photos just have a hyper realistic kind of just pop. They just seem to pop off the page. And right there, I'm like, okay, that completely validates why you would use a lens like this. Of course, it's not great for every scenario. It's a limited use case for some people. But that, to me, really, this is someone that of course, they understand photography from a view of how the photo looks or how it feels, but technically they know nothing about photography, right? And they were able to pick out, I think it was like 10 images that ended up going in this catalog, all from the Noctilux. So for me, that right there kind of proves that, yes, it does create something really unique. Quentin's got the great questions. Okay. I'm struggling to envision the M12, as am I. I'm worried that it'll end up being too digital. If they stay true to the M heritage, what is there left to add? Global shutter. I never touched the electronic shutter anyways. Yeah, I mean, global shutter would be insane. I think that would be really cool, although not necessary. I think global shutter has a ways to go before they really perfect it. I have not personally shot the Sony that has it, but I've heard some great things about it and some kind of drawbacks. To be honest with you, what I would love to see is a 40 megapixel, this is not going to happen, but what I would love to see, 40 megapixel, backside illuminated, nice fast sensor, something like even like a 24 megapixel that's like in the SL3S. That would be my dream sensor in M. I would never need anything different. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting subject because the M11 is so damn good, right? But personally, I don't actually love that SL3, Q3, M11 sensor always. Once you start pushing that, like, I'm not a crazy high ISO per, like, I'm not like, oh, I can shoot at 50,000. I don't care about that. But when your 50,000 ISO is cleaner, that means that 3200 is really clean, right? And I find that above 3200 on the 60 megapixel sensors, that the files really start to fall apart. So shooting in concerts and things like that, you know, I will go up to 64, 12,500, and I definitely see the color rendition of things start to fade a little bit, which I'm not a big fan of. So I prefer lower resolution, cleaner imagery, and also the colors out of SL3S, like I said earlier, are really nice. So for me, I would love to see a faster sensor that renders color-wise similar to the SL3S, but of course, that's not going to happen. The other day, I heard someone talking about maybe 100 megapixels or something. Oh my God. I hope they don't do that, because the last thing we need is more resolution. Another problem with higher resolution is it causes diffraction because we have smaller pixel pitches and things like that. With the M lenses being so close to the sensor, the light really has to bend far out of it. So yeah, I could see some problems developing that. Even with the M11, speaking of the 0.95 Noctilux, the chromatic aberration is much worse on a higher resolution camera than it is on lower resolution. So for me, my wish would be don't keep bumping the resolution, but unfortunately that's what sells nowadays. So I think that's probably inevitable, but maybe we'll get at least another generation of the 60 megapixel sensor. The 24 Noctilux, it's coming out tomorrow. I got 2 of them back here. Just kidding. I don't think they're ever going to do a 24 Noctilux. I think the lens would be like the size of a bazooka. Cam, what's up? Yes, I am currently in process. Hopefully end of next week, I'm hoping that my video review, first look comparison of the Light Lens Lab double spherical and the original will come out. Preliminary, I will say it's very close. Interestingly enough, the Light Lens Lab actually has a little bit smoother bokeh than the double spherical. And it's funny because I never thought the double spherical bokeh wasn't smooth or pleasing, but putting them side by side, that's the biggest difference I see. Like the edges aren't so hard around the bokeh and things like that. It's a little bit of a softer edge. So I gotta be honest, for the price of that lens, it's pretty damn hard not to recommend for someone that doesn't want to spend, you know, even 2500 on a used FLE if they can't swing that. I think the Light Lens Lab double spherical will become my new entry level, if you want to call it that, recommendation for M-mount before getting into Leica lenses. It's really nice. But yeah, hopefully I'll have that comparison out here soon. No problem, man. I appreciate it, Manuel. Thank you for the kind words. I will keep doing the videos. Okay, here we go. Answer or follow up to that question. Haven't processed film in 25 years. Scans have been really inconsistent from labs. Yeah. Okay. Can you tell me what film you're using? How you're metering? Are you using the in-camera meter? I've had 2 people recently get M6s that had faulty meters that were a little bit intermittent. So that could be something. Maybe you want to check your metering with a manual light meter if you do have one. That's something I can recommend. And yeah. If you're sending to the same lab and you're getting inconsistent results, this is how film goes. I've shot it consistently for a really long time, and the other day I just developed a roll and half the roll had a bunch of problems on it. You know, and it's like one of those things that's just so incredibly frustrating. I totally get it. But what I would recommend for people that are first getting into it or getting back into film photography, stick with something consistent. Like find photographers or images that you really love that were taken on film. Say it's, you know, oh man, I love all these photos that were done on Portra, or all these photos that Tri-X, of course, is a classic, right? I would recommend sticking with black and white at first. Something like a Tri-X or an HP5. It's a very safe way to go. And to be honest with you, Tri-X are actually the new Leica monopan. I really enjoy the ADOX HR50 if you can get away with it. But I love Tri-X and HP5. And what I've done is I've shot so much of it that, again, it's coming back to the same kind of ethos that I was talking about before. Know your equipment, know your process, know your exposures, your film in this case, and plan for that final result. And yeah, I think a lot of times what people do is they get into film photography, they're like, yeah, I'm going to shoot Tri-X. Okay, I'm going to try HP5. Oh, I'm going to shoot the 50. Oh, I'm going to shoot color. I'm going to shoot slide film. I'm going to do, you know, and they jump all around. It's really fun to experiment. But what that does is it reduces the consistency in kind of your testing and your own knowledge, right? So eventually, you know, it's great to experiment and try things. But I would definitely say stick with something like a black and white, like a Tri-X or HP5. Whatever you can get cheaper. They're both great films. I would say stick with something consistent and, you know, try to then achieve the look you really like, get that down, and then start experimenting with other things. But a Tri-X or a Portra, those are both very safe films that will provide great results. And the other thing is just check on your light metering and make sure that's really accurate, because film photography reacts the complete opposite of digital. Digital, you want to protect your highlights at all costs. Film, it's the complete opposite. If your shadows go too far, they're gone. Looks horrible. So if anything, err on the side of a little more exposure with film than you would with on digital. Cam, you're going to try to crash the workshop. Good, good. I'm ready, man. I can't wait. We're so excited. Chris, my go-to L-mount zoom lenses. I have 2 of them. I mean, I would say the one I use the most. I'm on the 24-70 right now, which I absolutely love. The 24-90 is probably the best. The 24-90 and the 90-280 are the 2 best zooms they make. But for me, having the constant aperture, a little bit smaller size, and to be honest with you, the cost of the 24-70 is quite lower. My SL cameras get thrown in insane conditions to the point where they could fall off a car, roll down the road, get covered in mud. So for me, the quality of this lens, the optics are still really great. It's the build quality is phenomenal. So I would say for me, my most used zoom lens is the 24-70 2.8, and then second to that, I have the 70-200 2.8. Again, a lot smaller than the 90-280, quite a bit lighter, and the focus on both these lenses is really nice. So yeah, my go-tos are the 24-70 and the 70-200, but if you can get away with the variable aperture, or you're okay with the size, the 24-90 and the 90-280 are optically for sure a cut or 2 above. But for what I do, it's, you know, these mid-level, if you want to call it, zoom lenses, and then if I need really super nice quality, I'm switching over to the Apo SL line. I don't know if that link worked to the workshop, Charlize, but maybe it's showing up in the thing. But yeah, I'll put a link in the description when I finish the live. Okay, great question. What's my go-to film stock for color and black and white, and why? So it all is scenario dependent. But for black and white, I have been an HB5 person forever. I was Tri-X before, but Tri-X for a while just got so expensive compared to HB5, I didn't really see a difference. Or I didn't see it really a reason to buy the Tri-X when it was over $10, but I think it's come down in price again. So currently I've been shooting either Tri-X if I need speed, because I love the flexibility of it. So this is why, right? Tri-X is such a classic look. I love my film shots to be a little more grainy, a little more punchy. So one of my favorite things to do is to push Tri-X to 800 or 1600. Same with HB5. They're both really great for that. And then they react really well to color filtration, so yellow, orange, or red filter. So Tri-X is great if you need speed, but a lot of times we're shooting with fast lenses on our M's, right? So if we're 35 Summilux, Noctilux. So something I've been really enjoying lately is actually the Leica Monopan or the ADOX HR50, which is the same film. Just, you can find whatever. I know the Leica is hard to find, so a quick tip for you guys, HR50 is the same film from ADOX. So man, I think probably the last 20 rolls of black and white I've shot have been all the Leica film. So man, when I can get away with 50 speed, the tonality is incredible. It's super clean. If you throw an Apo lens on there, it looks amazing. So right now, those are my two go-tos: Tri-X pushed, or the Monopan or the ADOX HR50 at box speed at 50 is incredible. For color, that's a harder one, man. I would say, I love all the portrait films, 160, 400, 800. I actually really love Lomography 800. That's a great film as well. But yeah, if I had to pick one color film, it'd probably be Portrait 400, honestly. It's a safe bet. It's great for portraits, of course. Gold is also really good. I love the gold. And my girlfriend actually shot some of the new, what is the new color film? I forget that came out recently. I think they have a 100 and 200 speed. I was actually pretty impressed with that. But yeah, I would say if I can only have one color stock, it'd be probably Portrait 400. I don't like the M11 colors. I love the SL3S colors, and use M Summilux lenses that started using Sigma art lenses, 1.2. Did you ever try Sigma, and would you recommend me to buy M9? Okay. I agree with you on the SL3S versus M11. Definitely prefer the SL3S color rendition. I think the files just edit so easy, so natural. And yeah, using M lenses on the SL cameras is a great experience. Super easy to focus with things like the Noctilux, and they balance really well, of course. I don't have any of the Sigma art lenses. I do have the 70mm Sigma macro L lens, which I absolutely love. I think they go on rebate sometimes for around $500. My main use for that is product photography and scanning film. Because Leica does not make a dedicated macro lens for the L system, unfortunately, we have to look at third-party stuff, and the Sigma lens it's phenomenal for film scanning. It's a 1-to-1, so for product and film scanning, I love it. It's a 2.8, so it's quite a fast lens for macro, which is nice. I haven't used the Art 1.2 lenses, although I think they have a 200 f2 now, which I would love, because that's like the one lens. I do have the 70-200, but I love a fast prime long lens for the sports photography that I do, so I would really love to get that. Now, for your last question, do I recommend to buy an M9? I would say that's, as Josh and the guys at Leica Miami like to say, it depends. So the M9 is one of my favorite M's of all time to use. It's probably, I have been shooting the M11 a bit, but if I'm just going to go out and shoot for myself, the M9 is probably the camera that I pick up most. It's incredibly limiting. It's the closest thing, in my opinion, even more than an M10 or M11D, to shooting film with a digital camera, because although you do have a screen on the back, it's the worst screen I've ever seen on camera. The best that it does is that you take a photo and you look at it and you confirm, yes, I did indeed take a picture. Other than that, it's not giving you any information. So changing menus, things like that. The battery life is not the greatest on it. The menu system and everything is not the greatest on it. It's quite wide. It's similar to like an M240, so it's quite a thick camera. So there's an incredible amount of limitations with the M9. The ISO performance is terrible. But the photos that come out of it, when exposed properly, my favorite photo I think I've ever taken was taken with an M9 and the 50.95 Noctilux. The colors are incredibly, I don't know, it's very hard to explain it. They have a very Kodachrome look to them, I would say, and it's pretty well known that Leica developed a sensor in collaboration with Kodak, and it has a CCD. There's many arguments. People say, oh, I can edit my CMOS to look just like the CCD, which, yes, you can, of course, get it close, but I think straight out of camera, the M9, I don't even really apply any of my presets to it. It's kind of just like a beautiful rendering right out of camera. So if you like minimal editing, the M9 is definitely a great camera. Some basic, you know, if you're in Lightroom in your basic tab, some exposure, some contrast, little tweaks here and there, and it gets you pretty close. The only thing though is if you do like to heavily edit your files, the files are less flexible. One thing I do love about the color M9, I think it is the greatest converting color to black and white camera ever made. I don't know what it is about it, but it's so incredibly easy, and the files, I actually prefer the files converted out of the color M9 to the monochrome personally, the M9 monochrome. Talking M10, M11 monochrome, those are on a league of their own, but as far as converting color to black and white, I don't think there's a better camera out there. But yes, just please be aware of the limitations. It is a very unique experience. I'll just leave it at that. Okay, what are your thoughts on the 21 Super L-mount versus the Summilux? Hey, how's it going? Sorry, my neighbors are walking by. What lens do you think pairs well with the 21? Okay, so those are very, very different lenses. The 21 Super L-mount, incredibly sharp, low distortion, edge-to-edge sharpness, zero character. Okay, if you want to take portraits and, you know, you want some bokeh, some subject separation, it is not the lens for you. But it is much, much smaller than the 21 Summilux. So if you're doing street photography, you know, your f8, f11, zone focusing, landscapes, architectural, things where you need everything really, really sharp, great performance, you can't beat the Super L-mount. Of course, price-wise, it's less. The 21 Summilux is the 21, 24, 28 Summiluxes are complete freaks of nature. There's nothing out there like it. I literally was having a conversation with Cam Mackey today about it. He was asking me about 28s. And I personally own the 24 Summilux. I've shot the 21, I've shot the 28. They're all freaks of nature, meaning they are the only wide-angle lenses that I've ever used to do portraiture that does this kind of mind trick on you where your mind tells you, wow, that's a wide frame. It's a 28, it's a 24, it's a 21. But I don't understand why it has such low distortion. The subject pops 3D off the frame and you have beautiful bokeh and a little bit of character. So that's, you know, they're two completely different lenses. The only thing that's similar is that they're 21 millimeters and they're M-mount. So yeah, I would say if you want to do portraiture, you want to have subject separation, some character, some bokeh, and you don't mind the weight and the cost extra on the 21 Summilux, it's great. If you want ultimate performance for architecture, landscape, street photography, the size, the weight, the 21 Super L-mount is going to be a better choice. Okay, this is a good question, although not one I would say I'm super qualified to answer, but what lens do you recommend for landscape on the M11, sunset, sunrise, so low light? I admittedly am a terrible landscape photographer, but as I tell people, you know, just because you're bad at something doesn't mean you shouldn't at least experiment with it and try. My latest video, I had some, I guess, landscape photography in there, if you want to call it that, but admittedly, I'm not the best at it, so I'm probably not the best to answer this. But yeah, I mean, something, I guess, the thing is, are you going to use a tripod or not, right? Because you say low light. Now, I would say, arguably, you can kind of get away with any lens if you have a tripod, which a lot of times you will with landscape. But if you're not doing that, then yeah, something like the 21 Summilux that we were talking about, you know, if you have your subject is very far in the distance and you can kind of hyperfocal even at the lower apertures, I think that, you know, you can get away with something like that. The 21 Summilux is probably one of the greatest astrophotography lenses ever made, the 24 as well. You throw that on an SL, it is just mind-bendingly good. It's so, so good. But yeah, I would say, yeah, if you're able to use a tripod, going back to what we were just talking about, the 21 Super L-mount is incredible, but of course you're limited on the aperture. I believe it's a 3.4. But yeah, so it just kind of depends on which focal length. So maybe if you let me know which focal length you enjoy shooting, I can answer that a little better. And then stock, and you just, yeah, exactly. Yep, use black and white for a while. Like I said, try a Tri-X, something like that gives you good flexibility. Being at 400 speed on a film camera, if you don't have an ND, you're going to be stopped down a little bit more, which is not a bad thing. It will give you more of your shots in focus as you're learning the rangefinder system, kind of getting used to it. So yeah, I'd definitely buy some Tri-X, some HV5, and run that for a while, and really dial in your settings, your exposure, metering. And I think you'll find that your results will be pretty impressive. From Belgium, and heard about the Sony factory, formerly Phil factory, that made the M8 sensor. Okay, they're working on a new for European brand Leica. Okay, wow, interesting. That's cool to hear. Hey, you know what? As any competition in the sensor world other than Sony, there's nothing wrong with Sony, but as you guys know, competition in anything is good. So if there's I know Tower Jazz is one that does stuff for Nikon, and I think possibly they've done something with Leica in the past. So yeah, I would love to see a homegrown, maybe a European sensor or something like that to compete with Sony. Yeah, that would be amazing. That's a great info. Good rumor. Hopefully it comes true. Here we go. Do you think the silver chrome digital M's are under threat? I see less and less of them on the street nowadays. We've already lost black paint as standard. Yes, Kickstand. If you like silver chrome, if you've been thinking about buying a camera or a lens, I will just say that now is the time to do it, because I've heard rumors that a lot of, if not mostly all of the silver camera and lenses are going to be discontinued because they just don't sell, I guess. Apparently the black lenses sell a lot better. Black paint started to make a comeback, so maybe we'll see that more of a standard finish. I doubt it. I think they're reserving it for the special cameras. But yeah, I've been told, I don't know if it's totally true, but I have been told by a good source that the Noctilux 0.95, they're not making it in silver anymore. So it's a big bummer. I think the silver, I actually love mixing and matching. I love silver lenses, like on the Safari or on black cameras. I think it looks great. So yeah, unfortunately, I think a lot of the silver, and specifically, by the way, you say silver chrome, I think that might be a reason as well. The chroming process, I know in Europe, is becoming quite a bit more difficult. That's why we lost black chrome as a finish, and we're seeing, I think it's like a type of Cerakote or ceramic coating that's being done on the non-black paint lacquer cameras. But yeah, unfortunately, we're going to see a lot less silver cameras and lenses. Shirley said Kodacolor 100 and 200. Yes. Yeah, they're quite warm like gold for sure. Definitely. You give advice to Leica as they are getting back to creating their in-house sensor, presumably on the M12. Okay, you're kind of following up on that. What would be your suggestions? My suggestions and what they're going to do, I can tell you, are 100% not the same thing. But again, lower resolution, I think 40 is a great sweet spot for full frame. Gives you plenty of resolution. I would love to see 40 megapixel backside illuminated, fast sensor. The M11 sensor is so dang slow. Any time you try to use the electronic shutter and you move it all, you get jelloing and all kinds of weird effects. So I would say fast readout, great low light performance, and stick around 40 megapixels. I think that would be the absolute best M ever made, but I don't think that's going to be, they're not possibly, as a business and a company, going to come out with a lower resolution M. It's just not going to happen, unfortunately. So if anything, I guess realistically, keep it at 60 if that's what you're going to do, and just improve the color rendition, low light performance, and the sensor readout speed. That would be really nice for sure. Yo, Cam, he said, I bought my buddy who's helped me film a lot, I think Jericho, maybe I did meet him at Cine Gear, right? Bought the M240, and even the colors on there reminds me of slide film. Yeah, no, that's a cool thing about the M's. I think what happens is every M comes out, the M240 came out, oh, it's nothing like the M9, we hate the M240. Then the M10 comes out, oh, it's not like the M240. And I'm like, wait, I thought everybody hated the M240. So it's funny how that kind of comes around, but I agree, the 240 for a CMOS sensor does have a really beautiful rendition. And now that I think about it, for you, I bet you would probably prefer the files of the M240 over your M11 camera. So that is pretty interesting. But yeah, they definitely have more of a slide film feel to them. And I could be wrong, but I think it was maybe Tower Jazz or another company that did the Leica M240 sensor. I don't believe it's a Sony sensor, which the M10 is where that kind of started. So yeah, it definitely, the M240 has its own unique look for sure. Doc, how's it going? I would love to be in Okinawa. I'd love to be in Japan. I miss it so much. One of my favorite lenses, I believe, yeah, the 24 L-mount 3.8. Yes, the starburst when you stop it down are incredible. That's a great recommendation if you want a 24. Yeah, those are really, really great lenses and quite affordable for a Leica lens. So great to see you here. Thanks for that recommendation. Yo, what's up, Douglas? Appreciate you, man. I've had thoughts of trading the Okay. Gear says, okay, to Cam, think about trading the M6 for a 240. Okay. Let me ask you, how long have you been at shooting the M6? Have you given it 3 months? Have you given it 6 months? Because whether it's cameras or especially the Noctilux lenses, I see a lot of people jump into them right away. They think they're going to be the greatest thing ever. There is a learning curve. You can get discouraged easily, but I really encourage you to try to push through that. So if you let me know how long you've been shooting your M6, that would help me kind of determine whether I think, maybe it's time to start considering maybe a digital M. But the best thing is you just keep the M6 and you get an M240, right? That's ideal. Okay. If you have time to answer, I'm struggling with close-up with what lens you run? Close-up images with my subject. I have a 50 Summicron collapsible. So are you struggling with the close-ups because of the minimum focus distance limitation of the lens being 1 meter, or are you struggling to get close-ups just like as far as like nailing your focus and things like that? Because it can be kind of a different answer. So if you let me know kind of what's causing your issues, yeah, definitely could help maybe narrow that down for you. Yeah, 2.6. You know what's funny, Douglas? So he's talking about the M262 and 240 colors. I have not done this side by side, but people swear that the 262 itself even has a slightly different color profile because it's a more stripped down M240. I don't see why they would have done that, but it definitely would be interesting to put that side by side and see if it's true or not, or just a big rumor. Cam said, I agree with Kevin. I will never get rid of my MP. I know I'd regret it. Yeah, I think, the cameras like this, the thing is, I think, Gear, if this is your first M and your first rangefinder experience, even if you bought the digital camera, you would get used to it, then you would lust after the M6 again. So I would definitely agree with Cam. I would stick with it as much as you can. And if anything, try to find a used M240 at a really good price. And that can be a great way to learn the rangefinder, learn the experience of shooting the M, zone focusing, everything that goes along with it, and that will translate to your M6 being easier to use every time you pick it up. Because no other camera system in the world, you have film and digital so closely linked together. Like I tell people all the time, I think you could hand Henry Cartier-Bresson an M11 and not tell him anything about it, and you can go make photos with it. So I think that's what's so cool about the Leica. Yo, what's up, Austin? Good to see you in here, man. Yeah, 240 is favorite color digital. Yeah, I mean it's a personal thing for sure. It's definitely great. Okay, all this color talk. How do you describe Leica monochrome cameras to those who say that you can convert the color file? Yes, you can do beautiful conversions of color files, of course, and in that you do have the color channels that you can do your editing with. So some people just prefer the editing workflow of converting color to black and white. But what I say to the argument of people saying, oh, converting color to black and white is the same as shooting a monochrome camera, I definitely disagree with that. I've shot M9 monochrome, 246 I still have, M10 monochrome, M11 monochrome. And what I tell people is if you put the correct lens on there, the lens is very important. You will see a massive difference that you cannot recreate by converting a color to black and white file. There's something with the intertonal details. So it's all basically the shades of gray and, between pure white and pure black that you see. And then also I think the micro contrast and that extra bump of 20-30% of resolution that you kind of get in the micro contrast of the images when you use something like a 50 Apo Summicron, 35 Apo Summicron. For me, the 50 Apo is just glued to my monochrome. I do love shooting vintage lenses on it, but I think the higher performance lenses you put on the monochrome, there's more of a difference that you see. But no, I do absolutely love shooting my character lenses on the monochrome as well. I personally see quite a big difference between it. And the noise performance of the monochrome cameras are insane. And the other thing is that since it's not interpolating, I think that you get a more film-like grain structure from the monochrome cameras, if you want to say that. So a lot of times, and this makes no sense to a lot of you, but I'll explain. A lot of times I actually shoot at a higher ISO. I go to 12,800, 25,000 ISO on my monochromes, and even throw like an ND filter on the front of it, which sounds very counterintuitive, but I actually love the way the grain renders on the monochromes. So sometimes when I do nighttime photography, even if I don't need to push the ISO, sometimes I actually, think of it like pushing film a little bit, right? You kind of increase the contrast, you increase the grain, you kind of bring in some of those imperfections. So I love that with monochrome. Another little insight and secret, if you are scanning your own film, you shoot black and white. There's no better way to scan film, black and white, in my opinion, than with a monochrome camera. So you do the 90 macro, or for me, I take the 50 Apo Summicron and I put the macro adapter M, and I scan with my monochrome. Files are incredible, unbelievable. So that's a little trick for you guys as well. Oh, sweet. Okay. Douglas says it looks different from your experience. So you're talking about the 262 to the 240. Okay, interesting. I own both of them, so I definitely need to put it side by side. And the last 240 series, yeah, the last one I shot was a 262. And man, yeah, it's just right out of camera. It's really nice. Okay. Okay. See? I can kind of predict what's going on here, right? You said not discouraged, just 3 weeks and 7 rolls. Okay, I promise you, man, it's not going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be in a week. But if you give it some time, like I said, try a little more consistency with the film, consistency with your metering and the lighting conditions you're shooting in. I promise you, you'll get to a point where you feel good about your film photography. Now, one thing that I just thought of that I bring up to people a lot of times. Modern digital cameras nowadays are so damn sharp. Like, just, it's amazing, right? They're technological marvels, right? And the lenses are so high performance. And what can happen, and I'm totally guilty of this as well, is it's like, oh man, I'm going to shoot film, and I've been shooting my M11 or even a 24 megapixel digital, and you look at your scans from the film and you're just kind of disappointed. It's like, did I do something wrong? The resolution? And it's like, no, you didn't do anything wrong, but it's 35 millimeter film. Like, you can't expect medium format or large format or high resolution digital performance out of that, right? So we have to set our expectations of resolution, because I think the crazy resolution of modern cameras can give you a bit of an overstimulation, where film can feel a little more flat. So I definitely would say, if you're coming from a high-res digital camera shooting right to 35 mil film, the difference in resolution can be quite shocking. But don't overanalyze the sharpness and things too much. The film process, like, it's a cliche. Everybody says it slows you down and makes you think about things, but it really does. And it does help affect your digital as well. So that's why I really don't prefer film or digital. I love them both equally. But yeah, if you've only been doing it for 3 weeks, man, you got to stick with it. Give me at least 3 months with the M6. Shoot at least like 30 rolls. Find some consistency, and I think you'll start to really love it. And keep your negatives. Damn it, people get rid of their negatives after they get scanned to the lab. Don't do that. Yeah, that's interesting. Douglas is saying about the 262. He thinks it's the white balance and how they handle it. Yeah, it definitely. I would say that camera white balance is really unique for sure. When I bought my silver M11 at the Leica store, the manager said, finally someone getting the silver. Yeah, the weight difference is huge on the silver. To be honest, I prefer the heavier brass cameras. From a real world perspective, I understand why someone could want the lighter camera, but yeah, I prefer the feel. When I pick up an M, I don't want it to be lightweight. I don't want it to be cheap feeling. Not that any of them feel cheap, but man, when you pick up like any of the solid brass cameras, like the Safari, for example, or the Black Paint M11, it just feels so good in the hands. So it's a bit of a superficial thing, but I do prefer the weight of the all brass cameras. Okay, here we go. Following up on that, the close-up with the film stuff. Really close to my subject, always blurry, always a backup in order to get clear image. Saying 90 millimeter. Yeah, that's interesting. So as long as you're within the 1 meter focus distance that the Summicron has on your camera, it should be sharp. But what you can get is a bit of a focus shift happening. So what I would recommend, if you can, is throw that lens on a digital camera, go through the rangefinder and find something boring like a brick wall or something with high contrast, and make sure that your lens is actually hitting focus at those closer distances, because it could be a mechanical issue with the lens possibly. But yes, of course, going to something like a 90 will get you closer. But another lens to consider on the M3 is the dual range Summicron. So that's similar optics to the rigid, but it has goggles on the front of it that allow you to get really close, which is cool. So you can do some quite macro work with a camera like an M3. It works perfect on there. Weber, hello from Taiwan. I love Taiwan, man. Such a great place. I hope to visit again soon. Leica's Planet. Okay, I'm getting a lot about. Okay, I guess I need to look into these rumors more. A lot of people talking about making their own sensor. I've covered this a few times, but just really quickly, I would love for them, don't push the resolution too high, improve the readout speed, and have it really good in low light. Those would be kind of my asks of something that I feel like could be realistic. Yes, orange filter. Yes, dark orange or red or yellow is good too. But yeah, for me, an orange on the M11, oh, it's so good. Or if you have a monochrome, sorry, or on the Q, yeah, you can't beat like an orange filter. The contrast it gives right out of camera, it's insane. Definitely, that's a great recommendation. John, thanks for the question. Do you like what Leica did with their magenta, the addition of white balance feature on the M11? Yeah, I got to be honest with you guys. I personally, I don't know if it's the copy of M11 that I have. I've never found a problem with the magenta personally. And that is to say that I do post-process my images quite a bit. So as long as I have a raw file that is quite flexible, I'm able to tune the coloring to where I like it. So I got to be honest, Q3 43, M11, I've never really found that magenta problem that a lot of people complain about, but I know it is definitely a real thing. I would say I don't try to make my M11 ever look like my M9. Again, I know what the M9 is going to do for me. I know what the M11 or other cameras are going to do for me. If I want the M9 look, I shoot the M9. If I want the M11 look where I may take it in post-processing, I shoot the M11. So for me personally, I can't really answer that question because I never actually really try to make the M11 look like the M9. If I want the M9 colors, I photograph the M9. So sorry, that's not a great answer to your question, but that's just kind of how I operate. So yeah, I hope that can give you a little bit of insight into that. Chap said, well, I love M9 and M8 is on camera. Silver Chrome M8, that's rare. That's really cool. Oh, wow. M6, M3 is king. M3 is king. I totally agree. Greatest camera of all time right here. The Leica M3, the only camera that's in the Museum of Modern Art. So that should tell you something. It's very, very special. It's my first Leica ever. It's very near and dear to my heart. Yeah, Cam said the first time I tried a Leica rangefinder, I hated it, but then on one shoot, it finally clicked. Totally, that's what happens. That was 2 years ago, and I mainly use now on my M bodies. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I tell people. Stick with it. It's definitely like an inflection point. I was just talking to someone about the other day, is that, you know, you struggle with the rangefinder, you struggle, and then all of a sudden one day it just clicks, and you get an image that you really love and you're proud of, and you're like, wow, I think I really understand why someone would shoot a rangefinder. And not only that, it actually becomes, for me personally, the easiest way to manual focus any camera, especially if you have a lens with the focus tab. Because for me, if I'm using a 28mm Summicron, for example, I don't even need to look through the camera. I know where my focus tab is, my general range, I know my depth of field. Even wide open shooting with some 50mm lenses, I can do that as well. So yeah, I think, you know, you definitely got to commit to it, but I think everybody reaches a point eventually where it just clicks with them and the rangefinder becomes kind of the only way you want to shoot with a manual camera. Yeah, find the lens and film combo that fits your creative. Totally. Another M11 still. Okay, nice. We got the M11. You know what's a really rare camera too is the M9 monochrome in silver. One of the local beers and camera guys has one here, and every time I'm like, oh man, the M9 is so beautiful. That's a really, really rare one. Yeah, love the weight of the brass. Totally agree. Magenta shift was a real problem for me. 15 clicks up now with the white balance setting is perfect on to tweak my older. Okay, gotcha. So yeah, that's good that if you find like something that you're just like, okay, the magenta bothers me, you know, I find an area where I like to get it, you can kind of pre-apply that, almost like your own magenta correction preset. So that's good to know for sure. Douglas says M11 files are really flexible. I recommend for anyone that's worried about the magenta, learn how to work with the yeah, totally. I agree. Douglas is a phenomenal photographer, by the way. Viewfinder. Check out his channel. He's got some great content on there, shooting with some Leica stuff, some Fujis, all kinds of different stuff. But it's more about the photography for him, not the equipment, which a lot of us could benefit from. Yeah, he's got some phenomenal stuff. So definitely check out his channel. And I totally agree that the files are very flexible. As long as you're under 3200 ISO, I think they're quite flexible. And yeah, you can kind of tune them to get the look that you want. But yeah, it's unfortunate when it takes more work than you would like. Okay, this is so funny. You know, you guys are making me laugh because it's like I'm getting questions of things I never thought. You know, I'm sitting here. Oh, I'm going to get asked about vintage lenses and all these weird things. But have I ever used the 28 or 24 L-mount? One of the viewers, Doc, was just commenting how much he loves that lens. Yes, I have used it. My girlfriend used it to shoot some automotive stuff one time. Again, with that lens, it's very corrected. It's very small, lightweight. The prices are good on used ones. The one thing I'll just warn is that if you're looking for character or you're looking to do portraiture, you're not going to get any of that from the L-mount lenses. So if you want really very sharp, very corrected lens, landscape, architecture, things like that, it's great for that. And the size is really nice, but just know that you're not going to get any character from that. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, I totally agree. Best not to focus much on the magenta and focus on how you can work with the file. And that's what I was kind of saying. It's like, learn your camera so you know, okay, maybe it has a magenta shift that bothers me, but I know if I shoot in this way and I post-process in this way that I can basically deal with that. So I totally agree. You think M12 could realistically improve the power on time? Probably the biggest advantage film slot, yeah, for sure, is being ready. Instant on would be, yeah. That's something I think Leica has always struggled with, even on the SL3S that I use. One of my biggest complaints is just that startup time is just slower compared to other cameras. I do think that the M11 really improved the battery life. Throwing a massive battery in there helps, of course. So I don't find it too much of a problem with the M11, of course. But I don't use my screen that often. I don't review images too often. So you guys got to remember, on the M, the best way you can improve battery life is to reduce the amount you use the screen. So if you are struggling with that, definitely try to use the screen. Live view especially just absolutely annihilates your battery life. So as much as you can avoid it, try to stay away from live view on the M's. But you know, sometimes close focusing or different reasons you have to use it. But yeah, that's definitely, yeah, like a sleep mode would be really nice to see on the M. Yeah, you wish it. Okay, back to the I get why they did it, but wish it came with a tab. Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree. Or you know what would be cool? What if they did like some sort of like a mount down here, kind of like you think of it like a tripod mount, right? Where you maybe it includes it or it's an extra accessory. You can decide, hey, I want to add the focus tab or not. Maybe that's something cool. I don't know. I just thought of that, but it would be cool if you could decide whether you want a focus tab or not. Because I agree. I definitely love having the tab because it gives me a reference for where I'm at, and it really makes focusing a lot faster for me. So I definitely would love to see an option to have one on there. This is a great question. So yes, the answer is there an M240 black paint? And the reason is black paint was the standard finish on the M240. It is not glossy lacquer as we know it on some of the other cameras. But yes, actually, believe it or not, the M8, the M9, and the M240, before black paint became the special thing that they realized they could make more money selling special editions, black paint was the standard finish. So whenever you see an M240 in black, it is all brass and it's black paint, which is pretty cool. So that's why you'll see a lot of beautifully aged M240s out there. How about the Typox Samara 51? So yeah, I have not personally used the Samara lenses, but I've heard nothing but good things about them. I would love to try them. I know Cam Mackey's obsessed with them. He really loves them. So yeah, I definitely would love to try them and put them side by side. That would be pretty cool to see. But yeah, I still think the Summilux would win for me, but for the price difference, yeah, the Samara looks really, really cool. I'm glad to see other companies out there kind of pushing different price points and it's not just a budget lens, it's something that performs really well too. Hey Douglas, I do want to ask about vintage lenses actually. I wanted to know what would be a good 50mm to throw on the 262 for portraiture. Softer look over sharpness. Yeah. Again, the rigid Summicron version 1, it's a beautiful lens. It gives you some of the softness. It's not too insane, but you do lose a lot of contrast wide open, which is nice, actually. I think it's beautiful for portraiture. If you want to go with something even more dreamy, something like actually, even honestly, the new Summilux that Leica makes, the new old one, it's called the Classic line. So either this one, if you want to buy a new lens, is a great way to add some character, some softness to your portraiture, and still be able to buy a new lens. If you want something used, I would recommend a version 2 Summilux. They're also not too bad in price, but honestly, I don't think this is much more than that. But yeah, I would say a rigid Summicron under $1,000, great performance. If you want something a little more dreamy, a little more kind of vintage looking, then definitely a version 2 Summilux or the new reissue Classic line would be a great option for that. Yeah, you said, okay, Dr. Watson, I had the M8 black. Yeah, the M8's cool, for sure. And they even made a rare one my friend has. It's called a Panda, where the dials are silver and the top is black. It was kind of I think it's an M8.2, but yeah. So, Francisco asks, what's your story of getting your 246 Jim Marshall? I can't tell that on the live yet. I want to save that for a full video because it is a totally insane story, and a lot of my Leicas are like that. But I guess I'll give a little bit as basically, yeah, it took me like, I think from 2017 until 2023. So, 5-6 years to get that camera. And I missed out on buying the exact one that I ended up buying just within 5 minutes. And it was a whole story. So definitely I will get into that and talk about that whole story soon. But yeah, I want to save that for a full video because I think it's really fun for me anyways. Morning from Australia. Have you considered a MD-262 for your collection? Yeah, it's pretty hard to come by camera with great simplified user experience. One of my good friends, Greg, has one of those. Great camera. He absolutely loves it. It's black paint, which is awesome. And yeah, the price of those has just gone crazy. For me personally, to be honest with you guys, I have too much stuff. So I don't think I will see one of those in my future, but I do think for someone that loves the 240 colors, the 262, things like that, it's a great option if you want to get a D camera. But at the same time, dang, the prices are expensive. Yeah, chaps, this is what I was. Yes, the focus on the Noctilux does make it somewhat impractical because the long focus throw is what you're talking about. So yes, I do understand that, but I still would like to see the option maybe to add one secondary. But yeah, as you go into the close focus, that tab would be rotating, probably practically 360 degrees around the lens. So it definitely would be a little weird to use, but I would love to see the option to use one for sure. What else do we got here? Wow, okay, we've been going for an hour and 20 minutes. King asked, do you think the Hectors are good for VFX, 8K resolution, sharp rotoscoping? They're definitely probably not the best for that because, okay, to be fair, if you stop them down even a little bit, the performance does go way, way up. But it's definitely not going to be something like a Hugo. Like the Hugo, based on the M modern lens, is gonna perform better from like a resolution and quality standpoint with 8K and things you need for VFX. Admittedly, I am probably not the best to answer that question because I do a bit of it, but I work with someone that does a lot of it. But yeah, I would say the Hectors would not be your best bet to do if you're looking to do a lot of VFX and things like that when you need kind of technical perfection. Even honestly, within the line, the lenses don't match like absolutely perfectly. So if you're switching focal lengths and things like that, it might get a little weird. So I would recommend maybe looking at the Hugo line of light cine lenses would probably be a better bet for that, definitely. Okay, we've been going for a while. I think I'm going to wrap this up here soon. If you guys have any other questions, please let me know. I see we have to have some new viewers in here, so if you guys have any Leica questions, vintage, modern, please let me know. Anything photography related. And also, I'm going to be doing my real review on the Noctilux, photographing some things I'm more familiar with. So if there's anything, one question I've been getting asked a lot is how does this compare to the 35 Apo Summicron? So unfortunately, I don't have one of those. I'm going to try to maybe pick one up on Sunday from a friend that I can compare the two of them. But they couldn't be more different, you know, from my shooting experience, but that's a question I've got. So if you guys have any questions with the 1.2 35 Noctilux that you want to see answered in a long form review, please let me know for sure. Here we go. Dang, got an M8 for under 300 actuation. Crazy good deal. Oh yeah, that's another thing. The M8, especially in the M9, you can't use more. I don't know about the M8. It may be even less, but you can't use more than 16 gig cards, I believe, in the M9. So you gotta find some really slow older SD cards to use with those. You see any difference in sharpness or any differences all adapting M lenses on M versus SL? Some users say you get less sharpness and the corners drop. I think it depends on the lens. I honestly, I've never put it side by side. I generally shoot M lenses on an M, but you know, certain things like the Noctilux at 0.95, it just balances so, especially that 75 Noctilux 90 Summilux is just like, it's so much better on the SL. I don't see a massive difference, you know, but to be honest with you guys, I'm not a huge pixel peeper. I'm not throwing an M lens on a SL and you know, stopping it down and going to shooting a wall and or a focus chart and comparing the edges and things like that. That type of testing, while important to me, is not so important. I more just photograph and see how things in the real world render for me personally. So that's not something I've really seen, but I definitely think it could be lens dependent. I think on older designs, you know, you would probably see more of that for sure. Another cool thing is if you are adapting M lenses to SL, Light Lens Lab makes a close focus adapter, which is really cool. I really wish Leica would do this, but basically it's your normal M to L adapter, but then it has an extra focusing helicoil, so you can actually go beyond what your lens focus is. So with live view, it's really cool. So I definitely recommend that. It's a cool accessory to have to kind of bring in that close focus, especially on the vintage lenses. Some of them are, you know, like this Ridge is a 1 meter minimum focus, so you can really bring that down, which is cool. Hey Michael, did Leica ever make a 50 Apo or 35 Apo on brass? I'm a huge fan of the brass lens fill, totally agree, and the smoothness, also totally agree. Brass lenses, for whatever reason, are always smoother in focusing. The 50 Apo, yes, they made quite a few different versions actually. There's a silver and a black paint LHSA version. Fortunately, they're crazy expensive. You're looking at mid 20,000s for a silver and 30 to 40,000 for a black paint one. Fortunately, those have gone crazy in price. There is a black chrome version of it as well, and they look similar to this body. So kind of your classic Summilux. They kind of modeled the bodies after that, which is cool. So yes, the 50 Apo definitely has several brass versions of it, even titanium that came in the M8 titanium, and then the platinum edition is an all brass lens as well. So many versions of that are in brass. They're all limited editions, so unfortunately they are quite a bit more expensive. The black chrome is going to be your most affordable version of it. In the 35 Apo, there is a Leica Historical Society. Is it Leica Historical Society? Lars, yeah, I'm sorry, Lars. The Leica Historical Society in Germany, I believe, did a special version of an MP with a 35 Apo. I have not seen it in person. I'm not sure. It might be brass, but good luck finding one of those. They're probably $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 for one of those sets. But that lens potentially is in brass, and the reason I say that, it's not a traditional 35 Apo body. They did recreate it to make it look kind of like the older lenses. So I'll reach out to Lars and figure out the answer to that question. It'd be cool if it was brass. Print more. No need to pixel peep. Totally agree. Print, yeah. Analyze your work for sure. Rose said, I just saw your interview with Matthew and really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching that. Yeah, I was just talking to someone today, a friend of mine, Matt, that has an incredible collection of Leica, similar to Matthew. So I think we're going to do an episode with him for sure to check that out definitely in the future. I want to do more of those kind of like talking watches style episodes. Just join, make sure to drop this in. Appreciate it, man. Hey, if you have any questions, I'm still here. Please let me know. I know some people just got in here. So yeah, we're just answering any general Leica questions you guys have. Really interesting. A lot of questions I never, if you would give me 100 guesses, I never would have would have guessed that people asking about super L-mar 21 millimeters and the L-mar 24 millimeter, things like that. Some film photography questions, which is really cool. This is a good question. Is the Q2 worth it in 2026? I think any Leica is worth it in 2026, depending on what project you're trying to work on and, of course, the price you can get it at. So if you can get a Q2 at a very affordable price, it's a phenomenal camera. The lens is amazing. I definitely would say it's worth it as long as you don't pay too much and it fits into your workflow and what kind of photography you're looking to do. But yeah, it just depends on price for sure. Cool. All right. Any other last minute questions? I'll give you guys another minute. Oh, here we go. John said, what are your thoughts on the copycat lenses, such as Light Lens Lab ones? I have no problem with lenses that compete with Leica. Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from. I think where I draw the line is have patents expired? And another thing is, do you differentiate the lens enough that it can't be seen as a counterfeit or parts be interchanged? I definitely can understand where, you know, some people would not like that. And I'm definitely on the fence about it as well. I would say don't replicate modern lenses, don't infringe on patents. And also another thing is don't create lenses that, you know, Leica started recreating a lot of these lenses. So as much as I love Light Lens Lab, one thing sometimes, like, I just would like to see them stick with things that Leica doesn't remake, right? Like the Noctilux 1.2, for example. You know, I could kind of see how maybe some people would be a little bit touchy with that. But for me, like with them, I love seeing the cinema lenses, the Ingenues, the Speed Pancro Cook lenses, things like that. I would love to see these companies like Light Lens Lab really focus on rare, exotic things like the double aspherical. I would love to see Leica make a replica of this, but they don't right now. And a lot of people would love to shoot this lens, but they can't afford it. They can't find one. So in that instance, you know, to those companies, I would say, please stick along the lines of things that aren't produced anymore, that are rare, that are expensive, that are unobtainable for a lot of people. I love that type of thing, but just stay away from modern lenses, stay away from things that are already produced right now. I think that's a big, would be a big thing, I would say. You got to be careful to not walk that line in the wrong way. Okay, Robert said he loves the Thambar and his M10M. I have a love-hate relationship with the Thambar. I don't personally own one right now. It's one of those lenses that has an incredibly small use case, in my opinion. So people ask me about it all the time. I would say it's not your first or your third or your fifth or maybe your 10th M lens, but if you want to create that beautiful, dreamy look with it, it is really nice. Speaking of Matthew Baton, he actually picked up an original Thambar, which I think the remakes now are going for crazy money. So definitely I would recommend finding an original because I always prefer the original versions. But yeah, I think the Thambar on the monochrome was amazing. Matthew showed me some photos that he made with his recently. I'm just like, wow, it's incredible. One thing I'll recommend on the Thambar is don't shoot it wide open. Try to stay away from that. I would go stop it down a little bit. Just a stop or two even. You still get a lot of that character, but it just makes the lens a little bit more usable. So definitely if someone's getting into a Thambar, recommend trying to just stop it down a little bit. But yeah, very, very small use case, but a beautiful lens. And oh, black paint, brass, doesn't get better. Any lenses that have the glow of the steel rim at f4 without having to find an original? Here the remake loses the glow after 1.4. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, the best answer to that would be what's called the 35 Summilux Preaspheric, because a lot of people don't realize that the steel rim lens design optically remained the same for about 40 years. You know, there's different variations, of course, in manufacturing, and the coatings have changed. But I would say if you want the closest you can get to the original is probably a Preaspheric, and then a remake would probably be the best. And the Preaspherics are nice because you can find them in the mid $2,500, $3,500. So basically the lens that came right after the steel rim, it doesn't look like the steel rim, but the optics are very similar. So, you know, you'll see some subtle differences, but, you know, we're trying to get close without, you know, paying the price of the original. The other thing I will say, though, if you're worried about price on the steel rim, look for one that has the goggles on it. It does look a little weird. It can be different, but if you really want that rendering of the original and you don't want to spend, you know, $12,000 to $20,000 on a non-goggled version, A little tip I probably shouldn't say, but on KEH, I've been able to find some goggled versions like right around $5,000, which I think is a phenomenal deal. So definitely don't stay away from the goggle versions too much, especially with live view and things like that. They can work really well. You get that beautiful rendering, but you know, at least half the cost of a non-goggled version. Remember a video of you making a leather accessory with the same Hermes leather as your Leica? Yeah, how is it aged? Yeah, that's funny. Actually, I have those here. So this is the M9P, or I don't know if it's a P actually, M9 Hermes edition. This has what's called Swift leather on it. It's actually from a tannery in Spain that makes this. And yeah, something I don't talk about too much on my channel, but I got obsessed with leatherworking because I bought my first Leica. And yeah, I've gone completely down the rabbit hole over the last decade. And I actually went to Switzerland about 5 years ago and trained with 3 former Hermes craftsmen. So I'm formally trained in all traditional French style leatherworking. And yeah, this is a bag that I made that's actually in the exact same leather as the Hermes M9, which is pretty cool. It's the same Swift, the same color. And yeah, when I was on a job in Europe, I actually visited the tannery and begged them to sell me some hides. I took my M9 and said there, and I said, hey, look, I don't, you know, the bag that that they made with the other version, it's more canvas and leather. I really want to make something to match the camera. And they were nice enough to sell me the hide. So I have a good connection with that tannery, which is really cool. But yeah, it ages really nice. The Swift leather is just, it's so beautiful. It's the most like soft, buttery leather I think that you can make something out of. It's really nice. So yeah, it's aged really good. Someone said, for me, the 90 Elmerit has character, especially wide open stopper too. Okay, nice. I don't have too much experience with that lens personally, but yeah, that's the cool thing about Leica, man. There's an infinite amount of lenses out there for sure. Cam, I think you're talking about the Preaspheric Summilux, right? The 35 that you got from Tamarkin. Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. And for someone like Cam that loves character, oof, yeah, it's hard to beat for sure. It's definitely... it's a good complement to a modern lens. That's what's cool about Leica. All the time I tell people, you know, if you have a 50 Apo, maybe you buy a modern Noctilux or you buy a vintage lens, or all three can be really nice together. There's a lot of lenses within the same focal length that don't have a lot of overlap in the way they look. And yeah, it can be a great way to build a good lens collection. You just don't want to overlap, you know, things that look exactly the same. That's a good question. Is a black paint 50 Summilux reissue a limited run or regular production? As far as I know, it's not limited. It's just a regular production lens. And I will say, I think this is the nicest modern black paint lens that Leica has made. And when I say modern, I mean in the last 25 years. Crop in here. This thing's sharp, but yeah, it is just, God, it's all brass. It's super soft. I mean, if you guys aren't used to heavy lenses, I mean, the thing is a beast. But man, for me, like we were talking about the smoothness of the brass lenses, it doesn't get better. It's so good. The build quality is insane, and the images are really beautiful. The cool thing about this too is that it's a black paint brass hood, which is not something that they've done with some of the other black paint kind of classic looking Summilux they've done in the past. So I really like that. I think it's cool. But yeah, you put it on like one of the modern black paint cameras like this MP3, and it's pretty hard to get better than that. You know, it's damn. It looks so beautiful for sure. But yeah, I don't think it's a limited run, so that's good. Do you think the 35 Cron V4 and the 35 Lux Preaspherical overlap? Personally, no, I don't think so at all. The 35 Summilux is a lot more glowy, a lot more character, good or bad, you know. But I don't think that it overlaps at all. You may not have heard in the beginning. I'm not personally the biggest fan of the version 4 Summicron. I much prefer the 8-element version 1. I think it's a much better built lens. Optically, I think it renders better, but no, I think it's quite different. Yeah. Okay, yeah. The hood is brass too. Yep, the hood is brass. The caps, front and rear, that it comes with are brass as well. I mean, the hood is like, it's it's a beast. Yeah, it's all metal and brass, and it's not aluminum, so that's nice. I think that's one of the best values right now, honestly, is the Summilux Classic reissue. And like I said before, it definitely balances the character, and it's still usable on the modern lenses. It's really cool. This is another one I didn't talk about yet. I have the hammer tone here, the MP. This one's really beautiful. Sorry, I think the focus gets a little weird on the SL after a while in this. webcam mode. But yeah, hammer tone's really cool. Yeah, if there's any cameras you guys or lenses you guys want to see in the next live stream, let me know. This is the steel rim black reissue, 1 of 200, double aspherical like I showed earlier. This is the Holy Grail, the Titan Noctilux. For me, this is like crown jewel of my collection. And yeah, this is the M3 black paint with a lot of patina and age, 1962. It's a beautiful camera. Kind of trace some of the history of it. I know where the last 2 owners were. Yeah, this one has a really unique high gloss finish, which is quite rare in the M3s. You can see it there, but yeah, it's just so beautiful. And some custom brass accessories on here. My girlfriend got me this custom shutter release made, and these brass flash sync port covers back here, really cool. But yeah, this is the M3 again. It's my favorite of all time. Okay, I think I'm going to wrap this up. We've been on here for a really long time, an hour and 35 minutes. I appreciate you guys tuning in. And okay, one more. What lens you wish Leica would make next? God, that's a hard question. Man, I don't really know. You know, I would. Yeah, okay, I can tell you. This is not a lens they're going to make, but possibly. I've begged and pleaded for it. It would be for them to remake the 66 L-can. Eventually, I will do a video on that lens. I think it's one of the best lenses ever made. I've done a video on the Lightcine Hugo version of it, so check that out if you haven't. But yeah, speaking of like the classic reissue line, I would love to see them take the optics out of the 66 Hugo and put it back into an M-mount lens. Ugh, that would be such a unique focal length, incredible performance, and I think something that would really sell well. It would be different. So yeah, if I could ask them, that was a hard one for me to think about, but then immediately once I thought of that, yeah, 66 L-can would be the one for sure. Jimmy said 40 would be good too. 40 mil Monochrome would be cool. Yeah, remake of the 75 Summilux, that would be awesome as well. Although my thing with the remakes is, like, let's take the 75 Summilux for example, right? If they were to remake that, the lens would cost $4,000 or $5,000, right? You can buy an original for $3,000 to $4,000. So would you really? I mean, I understand some of the want to buy a new lens, right? Warranty, quality. You're not worrying about some of the issues. But for me, I would much rather, let's say, you know, if the steel rim was the same price, or even honestly, the Summilux Classic was a little bit of a weird one for me because you can buy an original for less than a remake. So that's something I would say. Yeah, as far as like something like a 75 Summilux, I wouldn't mind to see a remake, but I would prefer to see things like a 66 L-can. I mean, that's a $70,000, $80,000 lens, right, on the used market. And there's only 160 of them in the world. So even if you have the money, a lot of times, you know, finding one is impossible. So I would like to see them focus more double aspherical, the 66 L-can, you know, lenses that are so rare, so expensive, just unobtainable for most of us. Yeah, I would say that's probably what I would like to see. So yeah, although the 75 Summilux would be great to be remade, I probably would still buy an original, because no matter what they do to try to recreate it, it's going to be a little bit different. So the 75 Summilux is a phenomenal lens, so cool. Let's see. Yeah, exactly. But no, yeah, I hope that kind of makes sense, right? It's like, yeah, the old lenses have character for a reason, right? M-mount, fisheye, Apo. Yeah, definitely. I'm sure that's probably the next one they're working on. Cool. Okay, thank you guys. I appreciate it. And yeah, maybe I'll be back next week for another one, or in a couple weeks. And yeah, keep an eye out for I'm going to do the Light Lens Lab double spherical comparison. And yeah, thanks for stopping by, guys.